SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
At Community Bank, we're more than a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors and trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've helped families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. We're dedicated to your success every step of the way. Community Bank, member FDIC.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21. I want you to believe me, baby.
Here we go. Start of a new week. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you being part of the conversation as we get rolling with a new week. Today is the 16th of February. Just a quick reminder, only 28 days in the month, which means we are over the halfway mark in the second month of the year. Oh, how it goes so quickly. C-Spire text line is open to you. 601-879-4395. That's the number if you want to join the conversation, to let your thoughts be heard. You got an opinion? Got something that we need to know about? Please reach out. 601-879-4395. Again, that is the C-Spire text line. C-Spire, customer inspired. Pretty good weather on Friday for opening day of the college baseball season. Saturday was okay. Cloudy most of the day. A little bit of rain overnight. And then yesterday was cooler. Man, that wind yesterday. Lance, do you guys have much wind in the Jackson Metro?
No, definitely. It was one of those types of winds where if you're sitting under a pergola or something with a cover and it's raining, there was no cover. It was
still
swirly. It was swirly, wind, so no way to avoid it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I sat out in it, but I was kind of wrapped up a little bit, enjoyed my coffee yesterday, and then it all started kind of coming.
Yeah.
And around lunch or so, it started kind of dying down a little bit. Day turned out to be fairly nice toward the end of it. But, yeah, it was a little soupy.
Yeah. Chilly wind yesterday. It'd be kind of like that today, but then we are in for a wonderful week all across the state of Mississippi. Batesville, you've got partly cloudy skies today, high of 64 with the winds light and variable, so not too bad. Ackerman. Some clouds this morning, going to give way to mainly sunny skies this afternoon. 66 for your high, breezy. Mostly cloudy early in Vicksburg, and then some afternoon sunshine, going to get up around 65 with light winds. Poplarville, you're going to hit 70 degrees today with some morning clouds that will give way again this afternoon to the sunshine. As for the week ahead, starting tomorrow, 70s across most of the state, even some 80s as you get a little farther into South Mississippi. Again, it's February 16th. Now, neither you nor I is naive enough to think that that's it. All right, spring's here. Nope.
No, it just works where there's always, my theory playing baseball all those years was you're going to get a nice opening weekend usually as far as weather. It kind of worked out this year, but Friday was, and then you're going to get winter again, and then it'll be over with. So
yeah.
It's
Sometimes
always
you get
works.
a couple more rounds of it.
Definitely going to get another bait of that.
Yeah. But the long-range forecast, pretty good. So we'll enjoy what we've got while we've got it, and then if we have to shift gears, we will. Elizabeth Olsen was born on this day in 1989, February 16th. American actress known for portraying Wanda Maximoff and Scarlet Witch in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm told this is a big deal. WandaVision, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and the Avenger films. I'm aware of those. Got a lot of acclaim for her dramatic range as an actress. The Weeknd, born on this day in 1990. Talking about the singer. His name is actually Abel Tesfaye. I mean, I get changing your name, and why not go with The Weeknd? The Canadian singer, songwriter, and producer, one of the biggest global music stars with a bunch of big hits in the R&B, pop, and electronic sounds genres. Here's one that's a little more mainstream, I suppose. Ice-T was born on this day in 1958. American rapper, actor, and TV personality, key figure in the hip-hop scene with his work in gangsta rap. Plus, Ice-T with longtime roles on Law & Order SVU, Mahershala Ali, 2 Academy Awards for Best Supporting Actor. Starred in House of Cards, True Detective, and Marvel's Blade reboot. John McEnroe, the legendary tennis player and commentator, 7 Grand Slam single titles. That fiery on-course personality had rivalries, biggest and most significant of which was with Bjorn Borg. And man, would he go after a tennis referee. Oh. LeVar Burton was born on this day in 1957. Was he a voice of your childhood? LeVar was an actor, director, and an educator. Famous for his roles in Roots, Star Trek, The Next Generation, and where I was introduced to LeVar Burton, Reading Rainbow. Did you watch Reading Rainbow as a kid?
I did, yeah. And I remember all of that. Good old...
Had the little kid come in and review the book, and he goes, but you don't have to take my word for it. The book reviews.
Good old stuff, man. Good old days there. And LeVar.
Reading Rainbow.
Yeah, it brings back a lot of memories there.
Yeah. Sonny Bono, born on this day in 1935. The singer, songwriter, producer, and politician. Half of the duo of Sonny and Cher with hits like I Got You, Babe. Later served as a congressman from California. Died in 1998. Skiing accident?
Yeah, he was like doing those, skiing in the trees.
Yeah.
And popped one, yeah.
I was thinking that's what happened. Kim Jong-il was born on this day in 1941, the North Korean political leader that ruled as supreme leader from 1994 till he died in 2011. His authoritarian regime shaped modern North Korean politics and international relations and bland architecture.
Yeah. He's also the eternal leader, of the Workers' Party of Korea. So another title that he gave himself.
So Supreme Leader has an expiration date on it.
Yeah, Eternal Leader exists beyond death. So
like he's still the Eternal Leader.
Right. You got to answer to him if you're in charge now. Right.
Good to know.
Pray to him, I think.
Margot Hemingway, supermodel and actress. She was the granddaughter of Ernest Hemingway, achieved fame in the 1970s as a fashion icon, and starred in films like Lipstick, one of those whose lives tragically ended far too young. Some things that happened on this day. We'll go back to 1804. During the First Barbary War, the U.S. Navy Lieutenant Stephen Decatur led a daring raid to board and capture the USS Philadelphia in Tripoli Harbor. He was praised by Admiral Horatio Nelson as the most bold and courageous, bold and daring act of the age. It was a key early naval victory against Barbary pirates. Not pilots, pirates. You're a history guy. You know much about that?
Well, it's the first major conflict of the U.S., and it was between the North African states, Tripoli and Morocco, Tunis, I believe, and I think Algiers was in there as well. So, but yeah, they had been raiding stuff, but the Philadelphia had run aground, was captured. I think that was like 1802 or 3, and then they sent over the group there and freed them up. And that was something where the United States showed, with a fledgling U.S. Navy, that they could get across the ocean and do some stuff if need be. So that was kind of the first warm-up right there. And I think you had a second Barbary War. I can't remember exactly when that was, 1815 or so.
Okay.
So it happened again. They didn't take the bait and leave and go home. So that neck of the woods, known for being kind of raiders there, as you come into the straits.
Jeff in Grenada says, was LeVar Burton in Sesame Street too, or was Reading Rainbow part of Sesame Street? I don't think it was part of Sesame Street, but maybe there was a guest appearance along the way. I vaguely remember that, Jeff. I'll go with it. Quick timeout. We've got news headlines. We've got a big sports update from the weekend. And plenty more to get to with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass.
Shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
MRC with you, getting this new day and this new week off to hopefully a good start. Thanks for joining us. 601-879-4395 for the C Spire text line. 601-879-4395. Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi is presented by Community Bank. Online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. 1862, the Battle of Fort Donelson in Tennessee ends during the Civil War with Confederate General Simon Buckner surrendering about 12,000 troops to the Union General Ulysses S. Grant. The unconditional surrender victory boosted Grant's reputation, and it opened the Cumberland River to Union control. In 1923, British archaeologist Howard Carter unseals the burial chamber of King Tut in Egypt's Valley of the Kings. The discovery of the nearly intact tomb and its treasures revolutionized Egyptology and sparked global fascination with ancient Egypt. Wouldn't you like to stumble upon one of those?
Yeah.
I mean, other than just kind of the spookiness of, there's a dead body in here somewhere. But
well, then you'd have to worry that it was cursed too, or there's something.
Oh, the treasure.
Yeah, treasure or the mummy itself, or because there's always those legends of the curses that the pharaohs had put on if you opened or messed or disturbed with their stuff.
Yeah.
But he made it for a while. I mean, you think at age 64 is how long Howard Carter made it. I mean, that's not an easy life, digging around in the middle of the desert, and it's not like you don't have the creature comforts being an explorer.
And of course, you want Indiana Jones on your team.
Exactly. I love all the explorers. I mean, to me, just their lives are so unique. I mean, you're really just taken off at that time out into the middle of nowhere, and you have no idea what's in front of you.
Yeah. The
tribes, the hostilities, the trek in front. I mean, it's just remarkable to me the bravery that some of those folks had in those times. But yeah, you'd have been wonderful if it had like a, uncovering of Al Capone's tomb, a type of setup there when you had, Howard Carter going in, but you didn't have that.
How Geraldo's career might have been different. 1945, Army paratroopers land on Corregidor Island in the Philippines during World War II, beginning the intense battle to recapture it from the Japanese forces. The successful operation helped liberate the Philippines and turned into a key moment, a turning point in the Pacific theater for the United States and the Allies.
MacArthur, I shall return.
1959, that's when Fidel Castro was sworn in as Prime Minister of Cuba, following the Cuban Revolution that overthrew dictator Fulgencio Batista. This solidified Castro's communist regime, reshaping Cold War dynamics in the Americas. Can you believe that 1968 is when the first official 911 emergency telephone call was made? And did you know that it was placed in Haleyville, Alabama? Launched the modern 911 system across the country, revolutionizing both public safety and emergency response. 2005, you had the Kyoto Protocol on climate change entering into force after ratification by enough countries, though not the United States. A landmark international agreement to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and combat global warming. Incidentally, Mandy Gunasekara will join us coming up a little bit later this morning. She is former chief of staff at the EPA, President Trump's first tenure. And we will talk with her about the announcement last week from Lee Zeldin about the rolling back of those regulations.
Now, wasn't there a story about a year ago, maybe it was a little longer, of like 250,000 head of cattle in England were slaughtered because of cow flatulence? And it all related
to it was bad for the environment.
Bad for the environment. Because CO2, you have carbon dioxide, methane are two of the gases. I remember that one. That was a weird story.
Mm-hmm. Feels like we've made it for a long time with cows tooting.
Yeah. It's all kind of cows, too.
While traveling to his inauguration in 1861, President-elect Abraham Lincoln stopped in Westfield, New York, to publicly thank 12-year-old Grace Biddell for her letter suggesting that he grow a beard, which he did, crediting her for the idea in a charming moment in presidential history. Two more for you. 1985, that's when Hezbollah is officially founded in Lebanon amid the ongoing civil war and Israeli occupation. The Shia militant group and political party has since become a major, boy, don't we know that's true, force in Middle Eastern politics and conflicts. And finally, it was 1937 when chemist Wallace Carruthers received a patent for nylon. The first fully synthetic fiber, this DuPont invention transformed textiles, manufacturing, and everyday products like stockings, parachutes, and a whole lot more. And who knew that down the line you'd be able to mix nylon and polyester and come up with performance wear? Those are some of the things that have happened on this day. Time now for news headlines. We start focused here in Mississippi. Subject is reported to have died by suicide after exchanging gunfire with law enforcement in Jackson over the weekend. According to Capitol Police, officers responded to a call regarding a shooting at a residence in Crestview. Upon arrival at the scene, police found somebody lying in the street suffering from what appeared to be a gunshot wound. Checking on this individual, folks began firing at police. The officer fired back. At that point, the shooter went into the home. Another individual reportedly suffered from a gunshot wound, or reportedly suffering from a gunshot wound, walked outside and said, yeah, the one that went inside, he's dead. Killed himself. Police later found the alleged shooter deceased in the house. Appeared to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The other two shooting victims were transported to a hospital. No officers injured. MBI investigating. If there's anything nefarious, they'll hand it over to the AG. Another shutdown for parts of the federal government has begun as a fight over proposed restrictions on Donald Trump's immigration enforcement agenda drags on. Funding for the Department of Homeland Security expired on Saturday. Democrats say they will not help approve more money until the new limits are placed on federal immigration operations after the fatal shooting of Pretty and Good in Minneapolis last month. The White House, for its part, has been negotiating with Democrats, but the two sides failed to reach a deal by the end of the week. Unlike the record 43-day shutdown last fall, the closures will be fairly narrowly combined. You may remember in my conversation with Kristi Noem a couple of weeks ago, she talked about the debate going on Capitol Hill about funding for the Department of Homeland Security. I think at the time I said, it really is kind of a silly debate. It remains a silly debate. FEMA, TSA, Secret Service, warheads, warfare, second biggest department outside the Department of War. But they don't like Kristi Noem, they don't like Donald Trump, and they don't like the tactics that ICE falls under Homeland Security, and CBP falls under Borderland Security or Homeland Security. They don't like the tactics. They don't like the optics. It's inhumane. We are safer as a country individually and collectively than we've been in a long time. No illegals coming across the border. A lot of deportations. Not saying there haven't been any mistakes, but the idea that you would hold hostage the massive department of the government that is tasked with keeping us safe at home to score political points is pretty disgusting. But it's kind of what we expect, right? ICE and CBP not really affected. ICE got $75 billion in one big beautiful bill. $65 billion for CBP. TSA, they expect them to keep working. They're just not going to get checks. We'll see how long that lasts. It's President's Day, which means pretty good deals for you on some things in Mississippi. We'll tell you about that next. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
What else?
And always on the Super Talk app.
Lance, did you know that today is one of the biggest ski days of the year?
No, I did not.
Yeah, President's Day.
Okay.
Usually they have the Christmas and New Year holidays that are busy on the ski slopes, and then President's Day, because you're in a time when you get a 3-day weekend, and February usually some of the best snow. So ski resorts all over the Rockies, and I guess the Northeast as well, a lot of them covered up today.
That's good news. It's got to be good for the old pocketbook.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, some of those ski resorts are not covered up with snow.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it has been a light snow year, especially in the Rockies.
Well, one of the events, I have the Olympics on one television just kind of running. And the coolest event, I don't watch it all the time. It's just, 5-6 minutes here and there. Mm-hmm. But that the snowboard free, whatever it's called, where they just race. It's just as fast as you can go, one person at a time. And I've only snowboarded, so I've never skied. And but it was that's the coolest, man. I mean, they're going so fast, but watching them just see how fast they can go. It's like one of the events. It's almost like you're on a luge, but standing up. And I've gotten a kick out of that one because that was a newer event. I haven't seen it, over when I was a kid. There's so many newer events, though, that are very compelling to watch, that are unique. But, man, that one is one that's just – it's amazing to watch. It's similar to the downhill slalom, I guess, and with skis. You just don't have the flags.
Yeah, you've just got a race course with the gates, and you're doing it on a snowboard instead of with skis.
Boy, it is something to watch. But I mean, I've been kind of blown away at some of the events. Some of them are very cool, actually. And I just don't remember this many events.
And I just remember being so engaged with the Olympics as a kid, and I'm just so not. And I was having a conversation with somebody last night about that, and I'm not sure exactly what is different, but I don't know. I have trouble latching onto this one.
I have no idea. Watching the Olympics as far as the hockey, I don't know if it's because the round, you're just not in the medal rounds or what, but it was almost like on a high school court. It just didn't have a lot of pomp and circumstance to it. But the games, I mean, Canada looked really good, a couple of them. I know the U.S. and so on and so forth. But, yeah, it was just it didn't seem to have the crowd involved as much. I don't know. And that's not why I haven't watched it as much. I'm like you. I kind of catch here and there. But as a kid, I was, like you, very invested.
No snow today in Mississippi for President's Day, but you are encouraged to get out and check out the great outdoors, and fees are being waived at some of our national forests, including Bienville Ranger District, Chickasaw Range. Is that Chickasaw or Chickasaw? Chickasaw Ranger District?
I believe that's how you say it.
Okay. The DeSoto Ranger District, the Homachito, Holly Springs, and Tong-Bigby Ranger Districts as well. Officials say this will give the public a golden opportunity to experience the natural beauty that is only found in the outdoors. The fee waiver does not, however, include campgrounds. So check it out. By the way, Chihuahua Lake Recreational Area within the Holly Springs Ranger District remains closed due to the impact of Winter Storm Fern. And one note for you from the legislature. It's been about a half a decade since Mississippians could propose new laws or constitutional amendments directly on the ballot for a vote on Election Day. And that will continue after a bill to restore the ballot initiative process died in the state legislature. Senator Jeremy England fulfilled his pre-session process to push his colleagues to consider a ballot initiative measure. But no. Allowing citizens to play a more integral role in the legislative process, it failed to pass in the Senate ahead of a major deadline on Thursday. No similar legislation exists in the House. The ballot initiative process was stripped back in 2021 by the state Supreme Court over challenges to signature gathering requirements and a change to the state's congressional districts. Jeremy England, a Republican from Van Cleve, has long maintained that the citizens are constitutionally entitled to propose new statutes that their local lawmakers fail to enact. Many of his fellow Senate members had expressed concerns with the concept. The most recent round of objections centered on the fear of big money influencing the citizen-led initiative process. A couple of detractors contended that with the version of the ballot initiative in place, billionaires, notably George Soros, could legalize a left-wing agenda of sorts by financially incentivizing registered voters to put certain measures on the ballot. I think George Soros is a bad person. I think he doesn't agree with probably anything that I believe. I think his kid is a scumbag leech living off of his father with little to no talent of his own. But George Soros as the boogeyman for every single issue that comes along is not the answer. In the same way that Nancy Pelosi was not the answer. It's what all Republican politicians did. They tried to tie every single Democrat to Nancy Pelosi. Now we try to tie every single Democrat to George Soros. Again, I think the guy's a scumbag. And I could not disagree more with how he has used his money, but it's his money. And he can do with it what he wants. If he wants to try to fund a bunch of elections to get a bunch of district attorneys and judges in place that are going to allow people to get out of jail and not prosecute them in the first place. I hate it, but it's his right. The idea that we're not going to have a ballot initiative in Mississippi because of people like George Soros, stop. Stop fear-mongering.
Well, there's also a suggestion that, what are we saying here, politicians are above that? That we don't have any politicians in the whole country that are not subject to receiving funds. And
but this is state level.
Yeah, but it's the same point, though. The Democrat Party, Republican Party, whatever it may be. The
Democrats just don't have the ability to advance an agenda in Mississippi, whereas if you get it to the ballot, you're, 50% plus one from getting it done. To me, though, what that says is you don't trust the people of the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
And that is concerning.
And that was kind of where I was going with that.
Yeah. Time for your morning sports update, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Online at pearlriverresort.com, your home for family fun, casino thrills, and live entertainment, plus home of the Sportsbook inside Timeout Lounge. If you had wanted to, you could have gotten in on the action on a basketball game that happened on Saturday night in Oxford. Round 2 between Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Round 1 went the way of the Rebels. Round 2 went the way of the Bulldogs in a big way. Thanks largely in part, to Josh Hubbard. 32 points on 12 of 16 shooting. He also had 8 assists, a couple of rebounds, made 4 3-pointers, and in the process became the all-time leading three-point shooter in Mississippi State history. Came in in the game, tied with Barry Stewart at 280. Made his first about midway through the first half, would go on to make 3 more. Sits now at 284 career three-pointers made, best all-time in Mississippi State history. Maybe the unsung hero, though, was the guy that scored the first 11 points of the game for Mississippi State. His name, Achor. Hit a couple of big threes. Got to the line. Got a bucket off the glass. If you had Achor scoring the first 11 points on some sort of a prop bet at the Sportsbook at Timeout Lounge, congratulations. You couldn't have gotten odds on that, but if you could have gotten them, they would have been so long that you would be a very, very wealthy person today. Bulldogs get the win. They moved to 4-8 in the SEC. They had lost 8 of 9 coming in, and they moved to 12-13 overall. Meanwhile, Ole Miss falls to 11-14, 3-9 in the SEC. They have now lost 7 straight Southeastern Conference basketball games. Malik Dia tied his career high, by the way, with 32 for Ole Miss. A.J. Story at 21. Baseball, we need to recap the weekend. Let's grab Southern Miss real quick. Matthew Russo drew a bases-loaded walk in the bottom of the 9th. A walk-off walk for a 6-5 win for Southern Miss to take the series over UC Santa Barbara. Crowd of just shy of 5,500 saw the Golden Eagles enjoy their 34th walk-off victory since the start of 2017. For the weekend, 16,518, a new opening weekend attendance record in Starkville. Golden Eagles hitting the road next. On Tuesday night, they go to southeastern Louisiana for a 6 o'clock game against Sela. That's your sports update. We'll check in on State and Ole Miss when we come back, plus the Mississippi Lottery. All next on MRC.
From the Venable Glass.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Time for your Mississippi Lottery update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, online at mslottery.com. That's mslottery.com. Did we have any big winners over the weekend? Well, Powerball up to $154 million for tonight's drawing, so no, there was not a winner on Saturday night. The estimated cash value of that drawing, $72.2 million. Mega Millions continues to climb. Next drawing coming up on Tuesday. $395 million now for the Mega Millions jackpot with a cash value of $183,300,000. The numbers from Friday night were 34, 40, 49, 59, and 68 with a mega ball of 1. Last week, the Mississippi Lottery Claims Office paid out $625,000 in winnings, while local lottery retailers paid out $5.4 million and change. And one last reminder, you're running out of time. Those of you, a couple of you, somebody in West Point, somebody in Coldwater, holding a $2 million Mega Millions ticket, purchased about 6 months ago, you have until February 22nd and 23rd to claim your dollars. That is quite a few shekels that you could collect. Maybe you're just teasing us. Maybe you're just going to wait all the way to the last day, and those folks at the lottery are going to be like, oh, man, somebody's leaving all this money on the table, and you're going to be like, gotcha. Give me my $2 million. I don't know. That's just wishful thinking. It's your Mississippi Lottery update, mslottery.com. Number 4, Mississippi State finished off an opening weekend sweep of Hofstra on Saturday in front of a little over 12,500 fans at Duty Noble. Diamond Dogs took the opener 6-1. Opener of the doubleheader before having to rally for a 7-5 win in the nightcap to finish off the Pride, the Hofstra Pride. 3-0 start to the year. Game 1, Mississippi State set the tone immediately as part of a 3-run first inning that featured an RBI double from Ace Reese and a run-scoring single by Bryce Chance. Reese finished that game 2 for 4 with a pair of doubles and drove in a run. Hofstra jumped out to a 3-0 lead in the first inning of Game 2. State battled back, though, and took the lead for good in the bottom of the 5th. Brian O'Connor begins his tenure with Mississippi State with a sweep, although perhaps a couple of closer wins than some people would have liked. Doesn't matter, man. Just win, baby. Just win. Ole Miss baseball swept its season opening series with a commanding 13-2 win over Nevada yesterday at Swayze Field. Rebels had some strong performances all across the board in the Run Rule Series finale. Ole Miss starts the year 3-0. Will Libbert made his first Ole Miss start, capped off an impressive week of pitching from the Ole Miss staff. He went 5 innings with 7 strikeouts and just a walk in the 20 batters that he faced. Ole Miss's pitching staff concluded the weekend with 35 strikeouts and only 4 earned runs. Ole Miss's bats had at least a home run in each game, 5 total for the weekend, 12 extra base hits. Good weekend all around for Ole Miss. Definitely.
The pitching staff looked solid, I thought.
Yeah.
The implementation of more guys throwing the split and a little cutter, that's some deadly stuff there.
A little splitty and a little cut.
I love the split, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So all in all, a pretty good opening weekend. And State sweeps Hofstra, Ole Miss sweeps Nevada, and Mississippi, Southern Mississippi gets 2 out of 3 from UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah, and the Florida kid that threw the Friday night's a first rounder. I mean, top 10 picks potentially that pitched for UC Santa Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
Kid hit, he's triple digits a good bit. He's kind of this year's Skeens maybe. Really good player.
Okay.
So they went up against an elite arm to open the season and held their own there. The kid's good.
7:20 this morning, Mandy Gunasekara will join us, former EPA Chief of Staff during the first Trump administration. We'll talk with her about some of the rollbacks to some of the EPA regulations that we heard about last week with Lee Zeldin and company at the EPA. There is a brewing controversy surrounding a couple of curling teams with major allegations of cheating. I mean, Lance, it's a real thing.
Oh, I know it is. It's just when you talk about cheating and curling.
Yeah.
Man, what's the world come to?
Yeah.
Huh?
I mean, how dare you try to get an unfair advantage pushing that stone across that sheet of ice? I think we've crossed the Rubicon with curling. Caleb Sailors will join us from the SuperTalk Mississippi news team coming up at 8:30 this morning. All right, 7 o'clock hour's on the way. Let's take a quick break for news, both from SuperTalk Mississippi and from Fox. We're back with you right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross. Good morning to you.
One early morning, one late at night.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, 7 o'clock hour. If you missed the first hour of the show this morning, it's understandable. 6 o'clock on a Monday morning is a little early for some, but most everybody kind of moving around a little bit now, trying to get out the door off to the start of the day. Or maybe you are a banker or somebody else who gets a federal holiday and you get to prop your feet up and keep your slippers on and enjoy one extra cup of coffee or two or three if you so desire, because you've got President's Day off. And if you do, congratulations to that. Glad you're tuning in. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, we're here every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. C-Spire text line is open at 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. C-Spire text line is the best way for you to connect with us. And finally, I would like to remind you that this hour of the show, the 7 o'clock hour of Mornings with Richard Cross, is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough. And if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. Thomas jumps in. I think this was when I was mentioning the George Soros thing, and that being the be-all, end-all, catch-all buzz phrase, bad word for Republicans. Anytime something is, you're like, oh, well, George Soros. Thomas says, yeah, don't forget the original catch-all, but it would be worse if Democrats. Yeah. And look, I saw somebody post this over the weekend, and it's true. I think it was, was it Dan Turrentine? He goes, and by the way, my MAGA friends, a D will be president again. You're right. I think, at some point, a Democrat's going to be president again. Will it be a moderate Democrat? Is there such a thing anymore? The American people have been duped once into a Democrat running as a moderate, only to become a flaming left-winger the second she took office. That was in Virginia. Abigail Spanberger ran as a moderate. Oh, just going to be middle of the road. It's all going to be good. Then she came in and hit the ground running with every agenda item you could imagine and is shoving it down the people of Virginia's throats, and there's nothing they can do about it. Not one thing, including reshaping the voting districts. What is it, 11 out of 12 are going to be Democrat districts? That's what you got going on. And so, what's the point, Richard? Why are you talking about something we all know about? Well, let's discuss the importance, the significance of taking advantage when you have control. John Thune is the majority leader in the Senate. He signed on at some point over the weekend as one of the co-sponsors. So allegedly up to 50. If you get a 50-50 vote, J.D. Vance would be the tie break. And that is if you go to a filibuster vote, a talking filibuster where you would only need the 50 votes and you could get the tiebreaker, 51, to win it. If you have regular debate and floor action in the Senate, you would need 60. You don't have 60 votes, even with John Fetterman, and maybe you pick off another Democrat or two. But there's a good chance that you lose Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins along the way, so there's just no wiggle room. There's no scenario where you are passing this voter ID, American citizens only voting in American elections unless you go to a filibuster. So, of course, the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, is going to get on that pronto, post-haste, right? Maybe so. But maybe not, because there is some other stuff. Well, they just listen to him.
The enormous difficulty of doing that. In fact, the biggest majority has not been able to.
Right. Well, I guess, and I would just remind people that the coin in the realm in the Senate is floor time. There's a finite amount of it, and we have a lot of things we have to do. There's a housing bill that's awaiting action, hopefully a market structure bill, possibly permitting reform, farm bill, highway bill. You can go right down the list. Russia sanctions, there are a whole bunch of things that could be teed up for action on the floor of the Senate. And so you have to make some judgments, and the conference will have a conversation about that. I've committed to that we will talk about that idea and determine whether or not what the conference's views are about it and how they want to proceed. As I said, we will vote on the SAVE Act, but exercising or triggering a talking filibuster has ramifications, implications that I think everybody needs to be aware of. So we will have those discussions, but that's obviously ties the floor up for an indefinite amount of time with not only unlimited debate, but also unlimited amendments.
So all the reasons that we need... Look, I actually like John Thune. I really do. I think John Thune represents more of what the Senate is supposed to look like and sound like. But you know what? I'm almost over that. I'm almost over this is what it should look like, and this is what it should sound like, and this is the level of decorum, and this is how your tie should be knotted with a perfect little dimple. I mean, John Thune looks the part of the majority leader. He absolutely does. And I like some of the stuff that I've seen from John Thune. I like some of his positions. But, Richard, I'm not sure Like, we got to talk about this and whether or not we're going to go with this talking filibuster, because we got a lot of stuff we need to do. I mean, we need to get to the highway bill. We need to vote on those Russian sanctions. Need to get to the farm bill. That is, the farm bill is of immediate concern. All right? Look, we've gone like 3 or 4 years without having a farm bill, and by golly, today is the day. We have got to get that to the floor and get it done. We cannot, without a great deal of discussion, think about taking up time and going to the trouble. I mean, it's hard. We got a bunch of people that are going to have to stay up really late if we're going to go to this talking filibuster. We're going to have to outlast the Democrats. We might not get to the highway bill. We might not get our sanctions against Russia passed. It's going to be hard. The people that voted you in office do not care how hard it is. If you give a flip about the sanctity of elections in the United States of America, and frankly, if you ever want to win one again, pass the bill. There is nothing pending on the docket dreamed up by anyone that is or should be more important in the Senate right now than the Save America Act. The House has done their job. Get it on the floor. Talk until your knees give out. Outlast the Democrats. Pass the bill. Get it into law and be done with it. And then, I don't know, maybe be efficient for once in your life and get some of those other things done that you need to do. Mandy Gunasekara joins us next. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm.
If the sun gonna shine, and I don't know if you ever be mine, I'll make love to you any old time.
From the Venable Glass.
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross, here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Back again with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Glad to welcome our first guest, and in terms of expertise in a particular area, Mandy Gunasekara has it in spades when it comes to the EPA. She was chief of staff at the Environmental Protection Agency during the first Trump administration. And feels like a great person to talk about a major story that broke last week. Mandy, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning. Good to be with you.
I appreciate your time very much. I want to read this to you from a CBS News story, so consider the source. The greenhouse gases emitted from sources like cars, trucks, and power plants, major contributors to climate change, will no longer be regulated by the federal government following an announcement from Lee Zeldin. The administration's action formally repeals what is known as the endangerment finding, and the White House called this the single largest deregulatory action in American history. That's been a buzzword for this administration, deregulation. What do we need to know right now about the decision that was made last week?
Yeah, it was a really important decision, and it has to do with a legal document that basically was the activating element to the entirety of greenhouse gas regulations across the entire administration. For the everyday person, that may not mean a lot, but what it has meant when you go and you put gas in your car, when you go buy groceries at the store, or you're purchasing a vehicle, that it comes with added costs. And these costs were incrementally more, starting back in 2012 when it comes to vehicle regulation, and they've expanded significantly. So what it will do, it will put downward pressure on the price of those basic things that everyone has to purchase to participate in modern life. And it will be a part of President Trump making good on his promise to make life more affordable again. The other practical piece of it, as it pertains particularly to cars and trucks, is some of the gimmicks that vehicle manufacturers put in cars to comply with these unworkable standards, things like the start-stop part of your vehicle where your engine stops at the stop sign and then starts quickly. It's awful. Those go away because car manufacturers no longer have to put those in to comply with the standard because that standard is no longer there. So it's a huge deal. It's an overall cost savings of $1.3 trillion. This is $1.1 trillion that will be put into the vehicle manufacturing, the industry itself, to make better cars, cheaper cars, and to give consumers a choice of what actually will work for them. And then $0.2 trillion that will no longer be wasted on forcing out the build out of infrastructure that doesn't respond to consumer demand. I'm talking about these plug-in stations where you had billions of dollars set aside by Congress that didn't result in the actual building out. That's something for the private sector, for the Teslas of the world to figure out, and they figure out quite well, not for the federal government to try to mandate and do what they do, which is waste taxpayer dollars in the process.
Mandy, I guess maybe I'm a little bit of a cynic in terms of the pricing piece. Like, I agree that getting rid of some of these regulations makes a lot of sense. I mean, just because they're stupid. Like, I think the start-stop function is ridiculous because it's annoying, not so much because I'm convinced that it's killing the environment and it needs to be there. But I feel like when we see prices go up, we don't really see prices go back down. They might stabilize or they might stay kind of flat and where they are. Am I wrong to think that maybe this doesn't lead to some massive, there's more money in our pocket, but at least it stops the upward trend?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is an absolute fair criticism of some of the general talking points, but the cost savings are macro. And so that's why it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have $5 extra in your pocket every day. What it does is it stops that trend of things going up significantly, and it also makes the economy healthier. You've seen a lot of this turning around since the start of last year. It's not just the president's deregulatory agenda, it's his tax agenda that he passed early on with Congress. It's also the tariff mechanisms that will eventually pay out in terms of leveling the costs that are generated in the United States versus are paid elsewhere. Those savings, if you will, mean they largely go to the entities that drive economic productivity. So the factories, the power generators, the widget makers across the country. And so that means that those dollars, instead of investing in the bureaucracy of Washington, D.C. to make life more expensive and complex, they're going into the businesses where they can expand. They can build out the latest and greatest technologies. They're making things more efficiently. They're hiring more people, and there is a residual benefit to that. So yeah, it's incremental. It's a bigger picture of cost savings, but it does actually matter. And for the American people, it'll be like it was back in 2018, really, where you felt like your dollar went a little bit further. You may not have understood all the macroeconomics at work, but it felt like your dollar went a little bit further. You were able to get that new truck. You had a little bit more in your savings, a little bit more on the credit side. And that's what the president is ultimately looking at, and the way that it will transcend down to the everyday American.
Mandy Gunasekara is my guest, former chief of staff at the Environmental Protection Agency. Lee Zeldin is running that agency now. We've talked in the past a little bit about Lee and the job that he's doing, and I think has gotten pretty high marks. I'm by no stretch of the imagination a tree hugger, but I'm not a climate denier either. I mean, I think it's fair to say that our globe is changing, but it always has changed. What impact does this have on, I mean, we talked about the getting rid of the greenhouse gas emissions standards and CO2 and methane and all of those things. What effect does this have on the environment?
Zero. for a number of reasons.
Okay.
The majority of the regulations, quote unquote regulations, were never in effect or on the books because they've been caught up in legal battles really since they have been finalized from an EPA perspective. So that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is that the real tangible results of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and let me say something that's really important because the left always conflates. There's traditional air pollutants, things like particulate matter, ozone, nitrous oxide. EPA has a legally viable and justifiable authority to regulate those pollutants, which they do, and they do quite well. There's a balance mechanism that's sometimes missing, but it's there. Greenhouse gases are totally different. And this is where it goes beyond what EPA was actually authorized to regulate by virtue of laws passed by Congress. Those standards for greenhouse gases were never really on the books, number one. And number two, the true gains in this space where we've reduced emissions while increasing productivity have come from advancements in the private sector, mainly the oil and gas extraction industries, advancements like hydraulic fracturing, horizontal drilling, these sorts of mechanisms that the everyday American consumer doesn't need to think about. But what the men and women of U.S. energy have figured out is how to extract resources, refine them, transport them, and deliver them to market in really, really efficient ways so that we have reliable, affordable, low-cost energy, but we aren't sacrificing the environment in the process. It's taken decades to get to this point where they've figured out how to produce these resources in a way that doesn't negatively impact the environment, but they've done it. And since 2005, you don't hear this often, the United States leads the world in overall greenhouse gas reductions, while at the same time, we've continued to see not constant, but steady economic growth.
So you said since 2005, which is obviously before the 2012 regulations that we were talking about. Does this see greenhouse gas emissions for the United States spike? Or is that what you're talking about because of all of that, all the progress in manufacturing and cleaner production that we're in a good shape to stay there?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that the gains that we have made is because of private sector innovations.
Okay.
And that those trends of reducing overall emissions will continue regardless of what the agency has done. And what the agency has ultimately done, it's been a part of a larger agenda from the left, from the Democrat Party, to take over the reins of the entire U.S. economy so that they're calling the shots. And at the end of the day, it doesn't actually produce a lot of tangible benefit for the environment. But what it does is it increases costs and it takes away individual consumer decisions that you and I want to make, what kind of car we want to drive, whether or not we want a gas stove in our kitchen, what types of appliances we have throughout. All of those were derivatives of this effort by the left to take a law at EPA, expand the reach of that authority, and slowly but surely take over decisions and hand them over to people who want to push things like the Green New Scam.
Mandy Gunasekara is my guest. You need to run, or you got time to hang for a few more minutes?
Yeah, I've got some time.
Let's continue the conversation with Mandy Gunasekara. George in Greenwood says SuperTalk and Paul Gallo, or one of his substitutes, introduced us to Mandy a few years ago, but last week Eric Erickson named her as one of 4 lawyer strategists who deserve the most credit for undoing the endangerment finding on carbon dioxide. That made her a superstar in my book. George, Mandy wasn't a superstar when we gave her to you. It had to be Eric Erickson. We've made Eric Erickson a superstar by putting him on SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm kidding. Outstanding praise from Eric. We're back with more after this.
From this
segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
No matter where you're from, Abbeville, Batesville, DeIberville, or any other ville in the SIP, you're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Pleasure to be with you. It is Monday morning. Mandy Gunasekara is my guest, former Chief of Staff at the EPA. That was during the first Trump administration. She joins us now. And given the amount of time that you and others had worked on deregulation, especially during the first administration, how much satisfaction was there when this announcement came from Lee Zeldin in the White House last week?
An immense amount of satisfaction. And it actually goes back to work I did in the U.S. Senate going back to 2015. I had the benefit of working for Senator Jim Inhofe, who really is one of the leaders of what happened last week with the announcement of getting rid of the endangerment finding. And it's because he was a man that was willing to stand up, ask questions, and seek the truth on something like climate change, which was really, really hard back in the day. He faced a lot of ridicule, and he didn't let that bother him with sticking to the facts. So I had the benefit of working with him and many others and was able to continue that momentum forward, ultimately to that announcement that the administrator made last week.
Mandy, I'm curious, this very big picture question. Can you say climate change is real and say at the same time, but the way that we're going about all of this and trying to change climate change is just dumb?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the climate has always been changing, but the idea that man can control it or the weather, it's more of a testament to the hubris of man versus being able to come up with effective policies. Something we used to say all the time, these regulations were all pain, no gain. They were all economic pain, they were all inconvenience, and they came with massive cost or reduction of access to things that actually worked when you need them, like reliable, affordable energy, which tends to be very critical when the weather changes. So yeah, absolutely. The policies have been very problematic. The climate policies, elements of the Green New Scam is the way the president talks about them. The policies have been very problematic. They've done little to change the trajectory of emissions. Like I said earlier, what has actually resulted in fewer emissions here in this country is because of private sector innovation. And the reality of the federal government getting involved is that they tend to hinder that innovative development on the private sector in a lot of different ways, whether it's through permitting requirements or just trying to shut certain industries down. And then it's susceptible to being politicized, like we saw. The left use fear and confusion around climate change to try to push policies they could not get passed in Congress. The reason that these greenhouse gas regulations were put on the books is because then President Obama, could not get the House to pass his cap and trade legislation in a Democrat-controlled Senate. So he turned to his, quote, pen and phone initiative, and he started pushing these illegal actions through the agencies to ultimately save face and get the agenda done anyway.
Not to mention the hypocrisy of the climate change advocates that jump on a private plane and fly halfway around the world because of convenience, but don't mind putting inconvenience on all of us in our daily lives.
Oh, absolutely. You think of people like Bill Gates, who's had a recent change in tune, Tom Steyer, Leonardo DiCaprio. There's a lot of famous people that fly around in their private jets. They live, if you care about your carbon footprint, they have the biggest carbon footprints, but they're telling all of us that we need to live in cities where you can walk everywhere, the 15-minute cities or whatnot, or to all stack up in condos with shower heads that don't work and toilets that don't really flush. Richard, I just thought of something that I think the listeners will appreciate is if you look at the pinnacle of international climate science, it's these reports put out, air quote reports, put out by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And then you look at something like the Farmer's Almanac. The wisdom and the reliability of the Farmer's Almanac has consistently been more reliable than all the climate scientists, all the expert of all the globe that are put out in these quote unquote reports. So it just goes to show you that this is really at the international level, this climate science has been overtaken by political agendas and those trying to push a globalist view of the world, which is on its way out and it's totally breaking down.
And by the way, I don't begrudge them their private planes and their boats. I'm probably jealous of that, but just like, I don't need you to shove that down my throat when when you're getting on your G650. All right, practical question. We've had multiple people that have texted this, sent it to us on the C Spire text line. It's something I was going to ask you. What about DEF? Are diesel truck drivers listening across the state of Mississippi? And we recognize a difference in heavy diesel and kind of medium weight diesel. I don't think I used the right language for that. Let's see, heavy duty and medium duty. Heavy duty trucks since January of 2010, medium duty since 2014-ish, where you've got to put DEF or diesel exhaust fluid in addition to your diesel fuel.
Yeah, so this is an indirect impact on that piece. The fuels are actually regulated under something called the Renewable Fuel Standard, and that is a different battle to be had for sure. But there are a number of elements within the heavy duty vehicles. A lot of this has to do with onboard diagnostics. That's going to mean a lot to the truck drivers out there. That will not be as complicated, will be taken away, and it means that the drivers are in trucks that if they break down or if they have problems on the side of the road, they can actually fix it versus having to go in and connect to a computer and have to deal with a lot of overcomplicated systems. When we have solid diesel engines, we have efficient fuel systems that essentially scrub out the majority of the pollutants, not all of them, and they run fairly efficiently. All the rest of it is just additional noise and additional cost. So they will see a reduction of some of those, but on the fuel side, that is mostly regulated through something called the Renewable Fuel Standard.
So bad news. If you're driving a Ford F-250 Super Duty, you're going to have to keep putting DEF in it for at least a while longer. Bigger picture at the EPA, are there other areas of deregulation that they are still looking at? What's the next battle?
Yeah, there are a ton. The next one, it's even nerdier, if you will. It's the permitting reform area. But what it means for the person who owns or works at a big factory, we have one here, Winchester, is that there are ways that existing industries can add in new technologies, but at EPA, you can take, let's say that's $1 million investment. By virtue of these permitting requirements, it turns into $1 billion liability. So that has obviously prohibited people from integrating new technologies that make things run better. And it means that you're spending more money on building out your workforce or producing a better product. That is one of the next big categories that EPA is going to tackle that will have a very meaningful effect. But it doesn't sound that great. It's just permitting reform, but it's actually a really big issue and something we started fighting early in the last administration as well.
Yeah. The forced transition to electric vehicles that we were seeing in some places, especially in California, does this go away when we look at this most recent, not legislation, but this most recent edict that's come down from the EPA and the Trump administration?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And that's sort of phase two of this is some of these state specific laws. California has passed state-based climate legislation that still puts additional requirements for their consumers to purchase these electric vehicles or to seek out these quote unquote zero emission vehicle credits. There's going to be an ongoing fight as to what is the reach of the federal law. Ultimately, they should be preempted, meaning the federal law rules the day and those state requirements are illegal, but that is going to be a continued fight. Yeah. For the rest of the country, it's ultimately up to the consumer. If you want an electric vehicle, they're out there. Richard, you know, I drive a Tesla. I love my Tesla, but it works for me. And I bought it because Elon was about to buy Twitter and I wanted to support him in his fight for First Amendment speech. That was my way to support him. But nonetheless, if you don't want a Tesla or you don't want an electric vehicle, there's going to be an affordable, efficient, gas-powered vehicle that's going to be able to get the job done for you. And it's going to be available going forward.
Yeah. Great stuff this morning, Mandy. Last thing, we got less than a minute until the break. This rollback of the endangerment finding, does it become permanent, or the next time a Democrat wins the White House and puts a Democrat chief at the EPA, do they just roll it right back in place?
Well, the next step is the legal fight. This is going to be challenged, but we're prepared for that. We've been working on this for a long time, and because of things like Loper Bright doing away with agency deference or trust the experts era, that is all gone. We're in a much stronger legal seat. And if a future administration wanted to reinstate this, it would be really, really difficult. They would have to build out a record of science that just isn't there. And really important, the veil has been lifted for the public. The difference between true science and politicized science, and that's going to be a barrier for them to get over as well.
Mandy Gunasekara, former chief of staff at the EPA, spending some time with us this morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Great stuff.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll talk again soon. Richard Cross, Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Mandy Gunasekara, always a wealth of information. We'll take a time out. MRC presented by Community Bank. Back with you right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
All right, now to the important stuff.
Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important. Huge news.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Thanks for joining us. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and Supertalk TV. Glad to have you along. Mornings presented by Community Bank online, communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. We got a couple of questions from you that I guess I didn't get to in time. 601-879-4395 if you want to join us on the C Spire text line. Dave wanted me to ask about chemtrails. Talking about the smoke from behind airplanes, right? Lance, I know there's like this massive conspiracy about chemtrails. I'm not educated on it, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all over the place there with the chemtrails. You look up in the sky and see them crisscrossing. And no, it's just condensation. Nothing to see there.
What do you think it is?
Condensation. Well, I mean, I have theories, but obviously the ozone layer, we heard that forever. You don't hear about it anymore. So
we're not talking about exhaust from airplanes?
I don't think so. I think I think there's been plenty of videos and documentation of huge planes with these spraying tanks in them. Nobody really knows what it is, but I think there have been reports out there that they've been, over the many years, maybe spraying things in the upper atmosphere, whether it's to enhance, say, things like HARP, or if it's to, replenish the ozone layer, which we seem to have depleted, according to the news for many years. I don't know what it is, and there's much speculation, but yeah, condensation and chemtrails act a little different. So whatever it is up there, it is something. And curious myself what it is.
Keith in Vaden says it's ice crystals.
Could be. I mean, again, but I've seen planes and things as well that have had huge sprayers in them. I mean, a big transport plane. So nobody ever seems to really have an answer for what that stuff is. Contrails or condensation. Yeah, contrails or condensation, chemtrails. Conspiracy-wise are different. So, again, I don't know what it is.
Guy in Brookhaven says that the government and states don't pass laws to prevent conspiracy theories, so it's no longer conspiracy. Also, planes don't smoke. That's condensation coming out the back. Excuse me, that's from Guy in Brookhaven. I'm going to be honest with you. I am jealous of some of you. Maybe it's just a stage in life. I don't have the mental bandwidth to go down the conspiracy theory trail that some of you do. And I think it's just because we get so much stuff going on. Like, I have to pick and choose. Like, I kind of have said no thanks on the NFL because, like, I have enough sports content in my head. I don't have to consume that. I'm going to focus on college sports and a little bit of Major League Baseball and a little bit of professional golf. Sorry, I don't have room for you or time for you, NFL. It's like kids' activities that, like, I don't have time to stop and really deep dive and think about some of the big questions of the world and the black helicopters and the tinfoil and all that. Anyway.
Well, my grandfather used to have a saying, is like, worry about the things you can fix and to heck with the things you can't. So you do have to focus on the things that matter. And I'm not sure chemtrails or anything I spent a lot of time on either. So
I think Dave's point overall was that he thought Mandy might have had a really good answer.
Oh, I bet she would have.
So, all right. All right, so the conspiracy, the controversy in curling. This is unfair. This deserves more due than the 30 seconds we have until the break. Don't you think, Lance?
Yeah, probably. But
the curling controversy at the Winter Olympics?
I was really hoping it was like performance-enhancing drugs or steroids or something.
Yeah.
That was my hope.
Yeah. Mandy sent me a picture after the conversation that we had. She's like, sorry if there was baby background in the noise. This is what was going on. Her youngest, her newest child, is about 6 months old. I would say her name, but I'm not sure I'm supposed to do that on the air. Anyway, she was lying on a bed of stuffed animals inside a cardboard box that was being pushed around by her brother and maybe her sister. And I said, it is absolutely 100% always the truth. A cardboard box is the greatest toy in the history of the world. So much you can do with it. Give a kid a box and let their imagination run wild. 2 hours in the books with you on this Monday morning. Today is the 16th of February, 2026. It is President's Day. We're going to take a quick time out, and we're back right after this. The news is next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Blacktop down in the ditches, hitching a ride back to where I'm from, catching secondhand smoke or a Greyhound bus. Pretty or not, baby, here I
8 o'clock on this Monday morning, just after 8 o'clock, actually. We are being truthful and factual and accurate. 8:06 and change. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Caleb Sailors will be along in about half an hour. I think he's sliding in for JT this morning. We'll talk about what's happening in the Super Talk, Mississippi news world as we move toward the start of another week in the Mississippi legislature. I'm sure there's a deadline this week. This is that time of year when there's a major deadline every single week. We'll keep an eye on some of the things that are happening in the capital, state capital. Mornings is presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances, our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. If you're dreaming of a new home, mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC, equal housing lender. The curling controversy at the Olympics widened yesterday as increased surveillance of the matches resulted in the removal of a stone thrown by the British men's team for the same alleged violation that burned the Canadians 2 days in a row. in the ninth end of Britain's round-robin game against Germany. Officials said Scottish curler Bobby Lammy had touched a stone after releasing it down the ice. Such double touching is against the rules. Britain won the match 9-4. Until Sunday, the allegations had been limited to Canadian curlers who represent one of the world's most fervent fan bases. The controversy, Lance, began on Friday night with an allegation against the Canadian men by their Swedish opponents. If you have not seen the interaction, it's fairly spicy. There's a little foul language in it. The Swedish guy, in a low tone, accuses the Canadian of cheating, and the Canadian has an expletive-riddled response, to which the Swede calmly says, "I'll show you a video after the match." Well, that video started circulating, and it appeared to show both Canadian curlers double touching the rocks, but both teams denied wrongdoing. My question is, if double touching is against the rules, if you say you're actually not touching it, but man, you're not, I don't know that you could put a cat's whisker between your finger and the back of the stone. What's the point? Like, why do you need your finger to be that close to the back of the stone if it's against the rules to touch it again? And why are we just now getting the allegations? It's just been going on for a while. Is this a new technique?
It's like, spoon bending. Some people can do it, right? I guess if you get close enough to that rock and you just don't touch it, you can influence it with your body, magnetism or something.
Okay. So the controversy began Friday night. On Saturday, World Curling, it's a thing, directed 2 umpires to move between the 4 matches during each round, monitoring play. That policy was in place when violations were called on Lammy and Canada's Rachel Homan, not just men's Canadian, but women's as well. I do, by the way, think that some sort of gold medal for spectacular athleticism should be issued to the one that is best able to crouch into that stance while balancing on ice and getting that low. If you're a golfing fan, do you remember Camilo Villegas a few years ago? He had that crouch where he got super low to the ground to try and read putts. Camilo Villegas might have been a world-class curler if Colombia wanted to have a curling team. So the Federation backpedaled on Sunday night, announcing that it would keep the 2 umpires who had been monitoring the games available at teams' request, but they would not be sent to monitor games by default. See, apparently, Lance, curling is one of those gentlemen's games. Mm-hmm. You have a referee available, like in golf, but you don't call him in unless you've really got a question. You call your own fouls, your own penalties on each other, and you're expected to do that, which is right. It's not like basketball or football or baseball or soccer where you're trying to get away with as much as you humanly possibly can without getting called for a foul. Olympic curlers have had varying opinions on whether umpires should begin using video replay.
Oh, goodness.
To adjudicate disputes or verify calls.
Make it even slower. Yeah.
The alternate for the Swedish women's team, Johanna Helden, said if they bring that in, I think it probably disrupts the speed of play. We've always been a game that tries to play by the rules and have that high sportsmanship level, so hopefully we can figure that back out. Tara Peterson, a curler for the United States women's team, has a different view. She said she would absolutely support video replay. She said there's a lot of sports that do it.
Yeah, I mean, curling moves slow enough that you would think there's not a whole lot of bang-bang plays going on there. But that's just me,
I rarely read the comments after an article, but these are pretty good. This is a story from the AP. I think the people who will find this curling story interesting are the same ones who get excited when the post office releases new stamps or a scientist discovers a new shade of fuchsia. Disrupt the speed of play. Oh, yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've watched curling and been like, wow, what's all this new hold the fort, slow down, I can't keep up.
That's what my point is. Like, I mean, how are you missing stuff? I mean, what are the refs over there just like on permanent coffee break?
Curling would be more entertaining as a drinking game, methinks.
That's what I was about to say. I mean, I can only imagine the curling teams at the beer drinking after the match. Like, what do you talk about? A little shop talk there.
I had a buddy that sent a group text message that I'm part of earlier over the weekend, and it was like, man, they got to allow drinking and smoking in curling.
That would be perfect. Like old baseball, They're eating hot dogs, burning them down, and got a six-pack over there.
Well, and then, in the face of cheating allegations, we'd get a brouhaha.
That's next. Since it's on ice, let's pull the hockey
And I mean,
out.
There was a time not too far back in our history where a brouhaha was about as good a way to solve a problem as any. Little dust up, fist flying a little bit, got some feelings hurt, we got some bruises. Problem has been solved, and you move on about your life.
Yeah, do you have to put the broom down, or can you use it?
Oh, yeah, you can't allow the broomstick to be part of the brouhaha.
Okay.
It has to drop.
No stone throwing or broom use.
That would be part of the unwritten rules, by the way.
It's a gentlemanly sport, right?
Mm-hmm. Amanda in Pike County says, this sounds like an SNL skit from when SNL was funny.
Yeah. You bring back the old crew, do some AI with like a young Chevy Chase and Eddie Murphy. That would be perfect.
And add Phil Hartman and Chris Farley. You've got competing curling teams.
You'd have to have the dude down by the river living in the van version of Chris Farley, though. Motivational speaker.
Hey, guys, the river is frozen. We can go down by the river in my van and curl. Come on.
Oh, man. And Mose, no, Rhino is still in bed, I hope. But, yes, you're right. The curling team probably isn't at the pub. Likely at the Starbucks with the lattes. Yeah, a little pumpkin spice sprinkled on there.
You think?
Yeah.
I realize that this is 11 minutes of your life that you'll never get back, but we've talked so little about the Olympics. I thought it deserved its due.
Yeah, I wonder if they're like
and I kind of wanted to make fun of curling.
Yeah,
and I thought we might could laugh just a little bit on a Monday morning. It is a holiday after all.
Are they like a fanny pack bunch? You think? They got like lemon pledge in there just to keep the rock.
A fanny pack carried diagonally across their chest. You know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a 150-year-old shipwreck that has been found in Lake Michigan. Inflation appears to be going down. A couple of things we'll get to next with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
Tell y'all what you love. Oh, yeah.
From the Venable Glass Trap.
You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on Super Talk, Mississippi.
A glove containing DNA found a couple of miles from the Arizona home of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie, appears to match those worn by a masked person outside her house the night she disappeared. The development comes as law enforcement gathers more potential evidence in the search for Nancy Guthrie. She was last seen at her Tucson home on January 31st, was reported missing the following day. Authorities say her blood was found on the front porch. Purported ransom notes were sent to news outlets, but 2 deadlines for paying the ransom have passed. Authorities have expressed concern about Nancy Guthrie's health because she needs vital daily medicine. Have you followed this story?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there are 2 ways to do this. Maybe 3. You are either all in and you are following every detail and every news report about the Nancy Guthrie story, or you're like, I didn't immediately jump on board and I hadn't been able to keep up with all of it. So you've been following it closely.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say closely, but yeah, definitely paying attention to it.
The number of conspiracy theories and mean things that have been said about the daughter, Savannah, who just appears to be in, like, this crippling anguish. And it's weird, man. Like, the number of theories floating around, the conspiracies, and just the interest overall in this, it's like, but at the same time, if you're an 80-year-old parent, 84-year-old parent, I mean, I guess you're exhausting all the... It's just weird. The most recent thought is it's just an armed robbery gone bad. Do you believe that? Or do you believe it's an abduction?
You know, I mean, I have a hard time believing that somebody just showed up to rob the lady. At the same time, though, they've made very little headway in determining that. So it leads me to believe that there's more to it than a mere robbery. So, I mean, I don't think that they've been able to say, yeah, we know without a doubt that he was there to steal everything and it just went wrong. And I just don't think you can make that determination right now from what I've seen. Again, I'm not an inspector or detective, but it seems there's more to it than meets the basic eye, you know? Like, oh, this guy was just there to rob her. He seemed pretty comfortable knowing his way around. And, you know, again.
Well, we got the surveillance videos last Tuesday, I guess it was, and last night, the glove found in a field near the side of a road about 2 miles from the home. Criminals are, I mean, for as smart as they are, criminals are careless and stupid sometimes also.
Well, that's that ego. Yeah. Think you're smarter than everybody else.
Investigators tagged and towed a Range Rover SUV from a nearby restaurant. Said the activity was part of the investigation. They're studying DNA from her property. The property DNA matches the glove DNA down the way. FBI has collected more than 13,000 tips since February 1st. Sheriff's Department has taken at least 18,000 calls. And then you've got Savannah and her brother and sister putting out these videos. Have they actually said they have said they are willing to pay a ransom, right?
Yes.
Awful story.
Yeah, it is definitely awful. And just going back, I mean, we had the Lindbergh baby, what was it, a week and a half or so ago? It reminds, not because, you know, she's a baby or anything, but the mother, it just seems there's more to this than just merely grabbing the lady, and it just didn't work out. You
Lance, you say she's not a baby, but
when you're dealing with,
when you get to an elderly person, especially one who has health-related issues, it's as close to dealing with an infant as you can come.
And that's kind of
an incredible life cycle.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I felt about this. It just doesn't seem that something just went wrong, and you know.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're robbing her, and oh, by the way, we killed her, or I killed her, and I've got to dispose of this body or something. It just doesn't seem that's the case right now. And there's way more to it. And it's hard to figure out because they have no real suspect either. You know, they don't know anything more than, say, a few weeks ago, it seems. Found the glove, got some DNA. It's just not going anywhere very fast.
Yeah. Shipwreck experts revealed yesterday that they have located the remains of a steamer that sank in Lake Michigan more than 150 years ago. We're not talking about the Edmund Fitzgerald. Illinois shipwreck hunter Paul Ehorn, 80 years old, completed a 60-year mission when his team with Shipwreck World discovered the sunken vessel confirmed to be the Lac La Belle, which disappeared into Lake Michigan in October of 1872. Ehorn has been dreaming of finding this ship since he was 20 years old, and his team had initially found the wreckage in October of 2022, 20 miles offshore between Racine and Kenosha, Wisconsin. But they waited to announce the discovery until they could make a three-dimensional video model of the ship, with the team able to complete the mission after a visit to the wreck this past summer. The exterior of the ship covered in mussels, upper cabins gone. The hull, though, appears to be intact, and the oak interiors remain in good shape. Ehorn has yet to discuss all the clues that led to the discovery of the ship, but he revealed that a big hint came in 2022 when he spoke to a fellow wreck hunter. It's kind of a game like solving the puzzle. Sometimes you don't have many pieces to put the puzzle together, but this one worked out, and we found it right away. It was a 217-foot steamship that ran between Cleveland and Lake Superior, but it sank in the St. Clair River in 1866 following a crash. Can you imagine spending 60 years of your life looking for a boat at the bottom of a lake? A lake that might as well be an ocean?
So those explorer types, man, they're unique. And you get on something and you stay on it.
I guess. I suppose. And finally, before we visit with Caleb coming up in just a little bit, the factors that measure inflation seem to be at a 5-year low. A key measure of inflation fell to nearly a 5-year low last month as apartment rental growth slowed and gas prices fell. Inflation dropped to 2.4% in January compared with a year earlier, down from 2.7% in December. Not too far from the Federal Reserve's 2% target. Core prices rose just 2.5% in January, down from 2.6% the previous month, and the smallest increase since March of 2021. By the way, those core prices are year over year. So when I say rose 2.5% in January, that is compared to January a year ago. On a monthly basis, consumer prices rose 0.2%, December to January. Core prices 0.3%. Gas prices fell over 3% last month. That's the third drop in 4 months. They're down 7.5% from a year earlier. Grocery prices are still up 2% year over year. So the tariffs have pushed up the cost of some goods, but some goods have fallen, and inflation has fallen. And jobless claims seem to have fallen. Man, just pick your economic factor when you decide whether or not you want to say the economy is doing well or not. If you're a Trump guy or gal, there are plenty of metrics that you can use that say it's coming back, he's fixing the mess. If you're anti-Trump, there are metrics that you can point to. Go, see, he hasn't done anything he said he was going to do. Feels like we're in a pretty decent spot, other than the fact that things are just expensive. Everywhere you go, they are expensive. It's not Donald Trump's fault, and I don't think Donald Trump's going to fix it either. We're back with you right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Waking Up Mississippi. From South Haven to Scuba, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you as we roll on this Monday morning, the 16th of February. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Caleb Sailors joins us this morning in place of JT Mitchell. Caleb folded JT up, put him in a box, and just kicked him right out of here. Morning. How are you, Caleb?
Yeah, that's exactly how that happened, Richard. I was like, JT, you can't be stealing all the thunder every Monday morning. You got to give the B team some action, too. So, yeah, you guys got me this morning.
Good to be with you. There were a lot of celebrations over the weekend, Mardi Gras style, Gulf Coast and farther north as well.
Yeah, in Cleveland or in the Delta area, they had a lawnmower Mardi Gras festivity, so you'd see the parade route.
I'm sorry. You're going to have to slow down and say that again, please.
Yes. So a friend of the program, Stafford Sheridan, was on Good Things with Rebecca Turner last week talking about it. A lawnmower celebration for Mardi Gras. So instead of having your traditional parade route with floats, they had lawnmowers leading the parade route in Drew, I believe, over the weekend. That was yesterday. And so, yeah, that was what was taking place in the Delta. And then, of course, on the Gulf.
Hold on. Lance, true or false? You would participate in a Mardi Gras lawnmower parade. True or false?
Oh, yeah, I'm in, man. Sounds fun.
I mean, I am a resounding true. My only curiosity is, like, what are the rules like? I mean, are you allowed to go zero turn mower, or do we have to go old school traditional? It must have either a steering wheel or a U-shaped handlebar, like Forrest Gump rode in the old, snapper cutting the football field.
I think they were letting like all shapes and sizes.
Okay.
If you got one, bring it.
Okay.
I mean, there might have been some push mowers on site as well, or some of the conventional ones with just the blade. I mean, you might have had all shapes and sizes, but I know they were having a good time in the Delta. And of course, our friends on the coast, I knew people that were in Ocean Springs and Gulfport and enjoying all the Let the Good Times Roll festivities over the weekend as we near Fat Tuesday and, of course, Lent beginning on Wednesday. And then there's events going on today and tomorrow, too, down on the coast. I know Biloxi and Bay St. Louis come to mind with events, too. So, yeah, Mardi Gras is running before we get to Wednesday.
A lot of folks made the trip to New Orleans this weekend on top of the celebrations that we had in coastal Mississippi. Saw a lot of those pictures. The big... what was it, Endymion? The huge parade that culminates in the Superdome, where anyway. A lot of stuff, a lot of partying over the weekend. Maybe some partying in Starkville on Saturday night as well after Mississippi State knocked off Ole Miss, and what a night for Josh Hubbard.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Richard. I actually saw you across the pavilion calling the game. I don't know if you saw me or not in the media area, but I was thinking at one point, I wonder what Richard is saying about Josh Hubbard right now. Josh Hubbard, of course, Madison native, was a star for MRA, who got a big state championship win over the weekend over Jackson Prep. And Josh Hubbard played to the tune, he was big winner at MRA. And at Mississippi State, the Bulldogs' season's not going so well, nor is the Ole Miss Rebels. But, Hubbard, he made a statement on Saturday, not only becoming Mississippi State's all-time leading three-point scorer, passing Barry Stewart doing that, but he shot 75% in a rivalry game, scored 32 points, and Mississippi State goes on this bonkers run to the end of the first half and builds this big lead. And anytime Ole Miss tried to come back at all in the second half, it seemed like Hubbard just had an answer, whether it was a three-point shot or getting to the basket, drawing a foul. I mean, he was masterful on Saturday. and he just seemed comfortable in the pavilion. And I asked him after the game, I know you have a green light at all times, but what was specific about today's green light? And he's like, I just felt it. I let the game come to me.
Well, the interesting thing is, in the first few minutes of the game, it was a different Bulldog, Achor, who got Mississippi State off to a really fast start, and there was no forcing anything with Josh Hubbard. It was find the open guy. Ole Miss doubled him a lot early, and he kind of made them pay. And it turned into a big, big night for Josh Hubbard.
Achor also shot 75% on Saturday. Richard State, as a team, shot 58%, but you had those two shooting 75%. Achor, I think hit his first three-pointer of the season was against Ole Miss earlier this year in the loss in Starkville, and then he hits three on Saturday, which is uncharacteristic. State had a couple other secondary guys hitting big shots too, which kind of opened things up for Hubbard. But yeah, that was Josh Hubbard put on a clinic, and he had been kind of slumping up until their most recent game against Tennessee, put on a show against Tennessee. The Bulldogs ended up losing that game. Tennessee's very, very good, as you know. But Saturday, though, it seemed like something clicked for the team as a whole.
This was also the opening weekend for college baseball. Mississippi State with a sweep, Ole Miss with a sweep. Southern Miss wins 2 out of 3, and it was not without drama at the end yesterday. That's a good series win for Southern Miss against UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah, Southern Miss, the top of the ninth. Ty Long, you got to catch that ball, man. The Golden Eagles are leading by a run in the top of the ninth with 2 outs. Camden Clark, the pitcher, ropes one, it gets hit into the infield. No, it doesn't get any further past the infield. Now, the ball might have gotten close to touching the moon there, but the shortstop doesn't come up with a catch. Santa Barbara gets on second, and then the next batter hits one off the center field wall. Next thing you know, we got a tie ball game, but Southern Miss loads the bases in the bottom of the ninth, and Matt Russo, I believe, is walked, and that's the ball game. The Golden Eagles win by a run on a walk. And so the Golden Eagles do get a big series win and against a great Santa Barbara team. And after losing Friday, they backdoor it. I don't think anybody's beating Santa Barbara on Friday this year, Richard. Jackson Flora, who's projected to be a top 15 pick in the MLB draft coming up, he was incredible Friday night, and I don't see him taking a step back at all at any point this season.
No. It's one of the pretty elite pitching matchups of the opening weekend. You had tournaments all over the place, teams from right here in Mississippi that will be taking place in those tournaments over the next few weeks. And I guess 4 weeks from now we'll be talking about the opening weekend of conference play as well. It gets here in a hurry. Let's transition and talk a little bit about the legislature. Pretty significant deadline with some floor action last week, and one of the things we talked about earlier, Jeremy England's bill does not make it out of the Senate, and that was the ballot initiative process.
Yeah, State Senator Jeremy England, of course, has been on this crusade to restore the ballot initiative rights for Mississippians. Of course, for those who may not be aware of the ballot initiative process, which I don't know how you're not if you listen to the show every day. We've talked about this exhaustively, but it's been stripped since 2021 when the state Supreme Court there was a discrepancy with the amount of congressional districts and whatnot, and we've had full extensive coverage on this at supertalk.fm. But now, half a decade later, we still don't have a ballot initiative in Mississippi. So the citizens, us, voters of Mississippi, cannot propose new laws or constitutional amendments, put them on the ballot for a vote on Election Day. And so State Senator Jeremy England, who heads the Elections Committee in the Senate, has said, okay, let's get this. He's been on this show, Richard, saying, This is a constitutional right. Mississippians are entitled to it. And so his measure was pretty strict in terms of what could or couldn't be on a ballot, how many signatures it would require to even get to a ballot. But some of his colleagues in the Senate earlier this past week had some objections to the bill. State Senator Angela Burks Hill and Senator Joel Carter, to name a couple of them, were concerned that there might be some dark money flooding into the ballot initiative process. And what I mean by that is they were concerned that, prospectively, some left-wing billionaires, George Soros, to name a buzzword there, could come in and just use a ton of money to influence an initiative process and steer a lot of people to sign onto an initiative that doesn't necessarily reflect the values of Mississippians. Now, again, Senator England's bill did prohibit any measure from stripping a Mississippian from his or her life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness or property, but there were some concerns there, and so the measure got tabled and didn't get picked up ahead of the deadline, and there is no similar measure in the House, so effectively the ballot initiative process is dead this year. I mean, I know nothing's dead until it's officially dead in the state legislature, but it doesn't seem like there's an appetite to bring it back up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that is a very reasonable take. I talked about this a little bit earlier this morning. I have kind of grown weary of the George Soros fear tactic and the lack of trust in the people of the state of Mississippi. I mean, even if it's a George Soros funded and driven effort to get something on the ballot, Mississippians still have to vote on it, for it, or against it.
Yeah, and that was what Senator England was saying, too, on the Senate floor. When he was questioned about that, he said, look, I understand what you guys are saying, and I have concerns, too. I don't want dark money influencing any initiative in Mississippi, but I do trust our voters. I think our voters are smart enough and prudent enough to know what is good and isn't good for our state.
We'll take our final time out of the day. When we come back, we'll visit a little bit more with Caleb Sailors about things that are going on in the legislature and what he is looking out for this week. We'll do that when we come back to wrap up Mornings with Richard Cross with you on this Monday, February 16th. Back with you right after this.
Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Wash away my troubles, wash away my pain, with the rain and shambhala.
Wrapping up the Monday morning edition of Mornings with Richard Cross with you right now. Caleb Sailors is my guest, and appreciate his time filling in this morning for JT Mitchell. So, a couple of alcohol-related bills that passed in the House last week, and now we'll see what the Senate does with them.
Right, last week in the House, one of the bills it kind of mirrors the wine bill that was passed last year. And for those who are unfamiliar with that, there was a bill that allows, there's a limit on this, but for wine to be directly shipped to people's houses in Mississippi, of course, you have to be 21 or older to receive a package, receive a delivery there. But this applies to alcoholic beverages now.
And in fairness, it's a really cumbersome process.
Oh, yeah.
There is a fee that the sender has to pay, and then there is a significant tax on the receiver. Yeah.
The state's going to recoup its money somehow, and a lot of that, too, is to protect some of the brick and mortars as well, so that way you're not just, circumventing your local winery or your local liquor store, etc. But this does allow Mississippians 21 and over to get liquor directly shipped to their homes. Again, like you said, Richard, with hefty fees attached to, I believe it's a close to 16% tax on every package. And then the other bill in question is one that what has been a fight in the legislature, has been a fight in Mississippi for some time. It would allow liquor stores or licensed package retailers of sorts to sell liquor on Sundays for a 5-hour window between 1 and 6 p.m. Now, it doesn't mandate it across the state. So we have, I'm in Hinds County right now in Jackson. Let's say Hinds County's Board of Supervisors said, this sounds great. Let's do it. Let's put it up for a vote. They vote to pass it. You could sell liquor in Hinds County on Sundays from 1 to 5 p.m. But let's say neighboring Madison or Rankin counties say, no. We don't want this. We don't want it on Sundays. They don't have to do it. So it allows municipalities and counties to opt in to say, hey, yeah, we could sell liquor on Sundays. So now this passed in the House, of course, has to pass in the Senate and get support from Governor Tate Reeves before it could even go into law. But that's where we are right there on those two bills.
Makes about as much sense as You have to wear a mask, but you can take it off while you eat.
That's right, Richard.
I mean, the magic hours of 1 to 5 on a Sunday, that just kind of, hey, I mean, these are, man, we do some stupid things sometimes. And maybe it doesn't go anywhere anyway. What are you expecting from the legislature this week?
So I'm not 100% sure what to expect this week, Richard. I really don't know what to expect any given week. I do know that the House and Senate, which are rarely in consensus with one another, did find some common ground recently on legislation that would intercept the gaming winnings from parents who owe child support. And so this would not apply to table games like poker and craps, but if you're earning a lot at the slot machine, earning a lot on mobile or sports betting of any type, whether it be mobile inside the casino or sports betting in the casino, however you want to do it, if you earn up to a certain threshold, the state could get the Department of Human Services and the Gaming Commission to collaborate and team up with the casinos and say, hey, you're delinquent on child support. You haven't, your kids, you haven't supplied their food or their clothing or whatever stipend that they're entitled to from you, and you're out here gambling. Yeah, we're gonna take that money now and make sure your kids are taken care of. And so this has been a campaign in Mississippi for a couple of years now. I know that lawmakers in the House have proposed similar bills in the past 2-3 sessions. But this year it's gotten traction from both sides, so now both chambers have passed their own respective version of the same bill. It's kind of got most of the same language in it. But yeah, so it mobilizes the Attorney General's office, the Department of Human Services, and the Gaming Commission to collaborate and say, hey, we're not going to allow people just to blow their money when they owe child support. Like you said, you talked about common sense, Richard. This appears to be as common sense as you could imagine.
Yeah. I believe it was, on winnings of more than $2,000 was the threshold there. So we'll see where they go. Also really interested to see, we know that the Senate passed the initial funds for winter storm recovery. The House has not done that yet. There's been some talk about sending the money directly to the cities and counties as opposed to sending it to MEMA, and that seems to be a bit of a holdup there. So we will see where that goes. Caleb, thanks for stopping in this morning. Always good to see you.
Thank you for having me, Richard.
Caleb Sailors from the SuperTalk Mississippi news team does a great job. The entire news team really does. They work hard. They cover a lot of ground and a lot of stories. If you're not following along at supertalk.fm, I think you're missing out. I stop by there every single day. You keep up with what's happening all across the state. Thanks for being with us, Lance. A pleasure to spend this Monday morning with you.
As always, sir.
We'll do it again tomorrow. Let's take about a 21-hour break, and we'll re-rack it and be with you just after 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. If you've got the day off today, hope you enjoy it. If not, well, hope it's bearable. Have a great Monday. For Lance, I'm Richard. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Have a great Monday.
Listen to the sound of the bell.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.